Hey everyone, welcome to our channel Mental Game. Today, we are going to talk about how to make people like you in 90 seconds. Now let's begin. What's your biggest fear? When faced with that question, most people say things like heights, spiders, or public speaking, but statistics show that we're more afraid of the things we're unlikely to reveal in a quick truth or dare question. Deep down, we're primarily afraid of being awkward and being alone. We're afraid of realizing that no one likes us or discovering that we are no one's first choice. We're afraid of being friendless. That's why, whether they admit it or not, most people are desperate to learn how to make friends and make people like them. Most of us drift through life wondering, am I doing it right? Do people really like me? What do people think when I walk into the room? These questions can fill us with so much horror and anxiety that it's often easier to avoid speaking to others at all. Even if that results in the very thing we fear, finding ourselves alone and friendless. But over the course of this summary, we're going to take an in-depth look at the necessary skills for conquering those fears and connecting with others. The first 90 seconds. As you've probably already guessed, the 90 seconds portion of this title comes from the fact that people form their first impressions of you within the first 90 seconds of meeting you. But have you ever wondered what they see when they make that assessment? Or what factors go into their final estimation? Studies show that a first impression is comprised of a variety of assessments, including that person's estimation of your intelligence, trustworthiness, success, status, and more. Some things are relatively predictable, like the fact that people assume you are more successful or popular if they see you wearing clothes with designer labels. But some things aren't quite so easy to anticipate and, often, they aren't based on things you can control. For example, we can't control the features we're born with. But a Princeton University discovered that participants consistently rated people with round, baby-like faces or feminine features as being more trustworthy. We also can't control our gender, ethnicity, attractiveness, or whether or not we need glasses. But a 2017 University of Toronto study found that, when asked to watch a video of a person delivering a speech, participants consistently rated speakers who were white, male, attractive, and not wearing glasses as being more charismatic or powerful. Similarly, a 2007 British study found that people tend to rate men and women with tattoos as being untrustworthy, less attractive, and more aggressive. When read together, the results of these studies indicate that our first impressions are not only formed in haste, they are also often based on latent sexist, racist, and classist stereotypes. Unfortunately, of course, there is little we can do to change another person's innate bias, especially when it is based on factors outside of our control. But there are some things we can do to make a positive first impression, and we're going to take a detailed look at those tips in the next chapter. Start with positive body language. Body language is often a more powerful communicator than words, especially within the first 90 seconds of meeting someone. And although we may not be able to change someone's perception of us based on our face shape or other physical qualities, we can work to ensure that our body language is sending the right message. For starters, let's consider the difference between open and closed body language. You might not be familiar with the technicalities of these categories, but the author guarantees that you know them when you see them. For example, let's say you're confronting your teenage son about the amount of time he wastes in his room playing video games. If he stands with his arms folded across his chest and rolls his eyes at everything you say, you get the message loud and clear. He's closing himself off from you and putting emotional distance between the two of you. Similarly, if you're meeting your best friend for lunch and she stands up to greet you with open arms and a big smile, you can tell that her response is open and warm. So, keep these principles in mind when you're meeting someone new for the first time. Don't be like your grouchy teenager. Use your body to communicate openness. This might mean standing with your arms hanging loosely at your sides, a position that suggests you're at ease with yourself and others, and with your body turned towards the other person in an open and inviting manner. By leaning towards the other person slightly, you indicate that you're interested in them and what they have to say. This creates a friendly atmosphere and invites the other person to feel at ease in your presence. Maintaining direct eye contact is the next step. Obviously, you don't want to stare them down. Too much unblinking eye contact and they may start to wonder if you have a creepy hidden dungeon in your basement. So, instead, initiate a few seconds of direct eye contact while smiling. How to be a good conversationalist. But now that we've considered how to build rapport during conflict, let's take a look at rapport building strategies for more neutral situations. As we've previously mentioned, nonverbal communication establishes the tone for your first impression, but conversation takes you the rest of the way. So, how can you be a good conversationalist? To get the conversation off on the right foot, the author recommends starting with questions that invite the other person to talk freely. For example, what do conversation experts, psychologists, and professional interrogators have in common? They all believe that following the rule of 5 W's and an H is a great idea. Okay, maybe don't lead with that question in an actual conversation with someone, but you get the idea. If you're not familiar with the 5 W's and an H rule, don't worry, it's really simple. It's simply a way of describing 6 questions that begin with who, what, where, when, why, or how. Questions that follow this format are awesome for starting conversations because they invite conversation. For example, let's say you're at a new cocktail bar that's just opened in town. You're sitting next to someone you don't know and both of you have been waiting on your drinks forever. If you wanted to strike up a conversation with that person, you could apply the body language tips we've already mentioned, adopt a useful attitude, and say something like, "So, what drink did you get?" This is an open-ended and inviting question that can't be answered with a yes or no response. Rather, it invites the person to reply in detail. Once they tell you what they ordered, you can respond by saying something like, "Oh, that sounds great. I ordered the espresso martini. I hear it's supposed to be really good." This, of course, invites the other person to remark that they love coffee or maybe tell a funny anecdote about their experience with espresso martinis. Either way, it keeps the conversation flowing in a natural and friendly way, which is exactly what you want. Even if you two don't share similar tastes, the friendly vibe of the conversation will enable you to connect and enjoy each other's company. Because although it's nice to have something in common with another person, it's not necessary for forming friendships or even enjoying a casual chat. In fact, many people who are very different from one another maintain close friendships because they enjoy each other's company. So, keep this in mind as you strike up a conversation. You can also keep the conversation flowing by asking questions that build on what your partner said. For example, if the other person says, "I don't go out often, but I've had a really stressful day at work, so I thought I'd grab a nice cocktail to relax," you should say something like, "Oh, I know the feeling. What do you do for work?" No matter what other strategies you employ, showing interest in your conversation partner is the best way to connect every time. It's also guaranteed to help the other person form a positive impression of you because everyone likes it when people are nice to them and interested in what they have to say. Final summary. The pressure to make a good first impression can make us feel awkward and scared. We all want to make friends and make people like us, but many of us feel as though we don't know. Fortunately, however, you don't have to flounder through life in confusion. By practicing open body language and displaying positive nonverbal cues, you can put forth a positive impression in the first 90 seconds of meeting someone. But once that first 90 seconds is up, remember to keep the conversation flowing by starting with a friendly introduction, remembering someone's name, and asking open-ended questions that show you're interested in what they have to say. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, so we can keep making them. For more videos, subscribe this Mental Game channel and remember to click on the notification. Also be sure to check out our other videos as well. Thanks for watching.